Saints Nation, thank you for bearing with us there. Unfortunately, right as we were about to get into game, it seems like this Blizzard server took a hit. But without further ado, we're finally about to get started here. And look who I stole off the Rift. We've got Andre, we've got Frez with us here today in this, or in broadcasting for me here today is Frez. Thank you for joining me, man. How you doing?
Yo, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this. It was an absolute blast last time. Hopefully, we end up seeing a more positive outcome than last time we were broadcasting this together. And honestly, I'm looking at these deck lineups, Stanners, and it's looking pretty spicy.
Absolutely. It's a little bit different, of course, than what we saw during, I think it would have been preseason or in the open division a couple weeks ago. Looking to just get into the game shortly here. Won't be too much longer. However, while we have the opportunity, let's take a look at, of course, who is actually even on our team to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see here we got Derval Nitrate Farias. He was on my team last semester as well. Dan, absolute stellar player. He's got the brain of Einstein. He's honestly really good at coming up with these creative plays and these weaseling his way out of tricky situations.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we've got Shadi Hanna, also known as Zedimental. You probably saw him a couple times here on the broadcast with me doing some Overwatch, freshman in the esports program. And then who's our last person here?
Yep, absolutely. And we got Simon Bodoin, also known as Gunter. I really apologize if I butchered that name, but yeah, as well, another freshman and new member of the Hearthstone fall roster for 2020, sophomore in electromechanical engineering and technician robotics.
And one thing I do like about this Hearthstone roster is that, of course, this is a game about like building the best possible deck, but also being able to play it, your mind, get creative, and do all the knowledge-based plays. And the fact that all of our members come from different areas of study kind of just supplements the fact. I know there's a lot of teams in Saints right now that tend to be a little bit esports heavy. But like this one, we've got a businessman. We have Shadi there for esports, and we got like an engineer, robotics technician. That's sick. We've got quite the diverse lineup here for our fall roster.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that is, as you mentioned, a little bit interesting to see because I know on my roster, 5 of our 6 players are all in esports, and then
yep,
you got the odd one out. So it's definitely cool to see a little bit of diversity here. 3 very different programs as well.
Absolutely. Now, it did scare me for a second there. I went to go hop into the game, but then nobody showed up on my list. So we do still have some hiccups here. We do have to throw it to a break in the meantime. I do apologize for that. Of course, we're trying to get this in. We're trying to do ourselves a double header, of course, with TESPA Hearthstone and then Ace Rocket League later on tonight. Should be exciting. But in regards to TESPA Hearthstone specifically, of course, this one is the Varsity division, specifically college versus college action. And with it being Swiss rounds, both these teams sitting at 1-1 currently in the season. Still early in the season, but you used to play on the Hearthstone team as well. Any have you played Michigan before or like that?
I don't believe I've played against University of Michigan specifically, but I've unless I have before I was on the varsity roster back when I used to compete on my own in open divisions with a couple of my buddies. But yeah, I don't believe so. So I can't say that there's any like kind of like a story here with a history, but you know, any close rivalry is a rivalry at that.
Absolutely. At the very least, there are friendly opponents from across the border.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned, having the Swiss bracket for this season is going to make it a little bit interesting because everybody that will be playing against each other will be having the same record, as you mentioned, both teams being 1-1. So both of these teams here, they got some fighting to do because I'm not sure if it's as was before, but I could be mistaken. I think after you have 2 losses, you no longer qualify for playoffs. I think you need like a 5-2 record, 6-2 record, something like that. So it's both of these teams here. They're trying to fight for that playoff spot, and if they whichever team falls short tonight is going to be kind of on the last leg for the rest of the season. So this is definitely going to be a very important match.
It'd definitely be scary, but thankfully we're about to get into the game. I switch on over in a second. Sure enough, let's get into it. Of course, before we do begin, thank you to the sponsors, of course, St. Clair College, the Alumni Association, SRC, Dublin School of Business and IT, PC Outlet, and of course, Tim Hortons.
Yes, lab partner already being played out. So let's first talk about this matchup here. So we got Rogue against Mage, right? Rogue, this is your typical Galakron Rogue, with a couple of unique special cards, if you will. And it's definitely running that early game stealth package as we see here. And this is a really, really good start for St. Clair. I'll touch on that in a moment. But I also want to talk about the Mage, because the deck list here that we have from University of Michigan is a little bit of a spell mage, if you will. So they're playing a lot of cheap minions that that generate spells, as well as spell damage, and minions that discount those spells on top of that. So they're looking to just spam as many spells as they can here. St. Clair College, though, they already have that stealth minion on board. Now they have a little bit of a decision to make if they want to clear that spell damage minion or if they want to keep the stealth. And it looks like they're opting to keep the stealth there because they want to play that turn 3 curve here and draw 2 cards free the next turn.
Interesting. I know you're trying to explain to me a little bit earlier about how burst damage heavy this mage can be if it does get the opportunity to get going. Or even just leaving a tiny little minion like this guy right here. Like, it doesn't seem that powerful, but +1 spell damage, that can definitely bite you if you leave it there.
Mm-hmm. And typically in the past, 1-mana 1/3s have been really, really good minions. Usually, just a 1/3 alone for 1 mana is a pretty well statted minion, considering that it has 3 health on turn 1. It's really, really hard to remove. The fact that it also has spell damage makes it a very, very powerful card, especially in this archetype. And there's the play we were talking about, Dan. They're playing that card on turn 3, drawing 2 cards for free, which is why they opted to keep the minion stealth on turn 2 instead of attacking.
Okay. Play here, of course, they do have a couple 0 mana cards they could opt to possibly do some damage with, and might be getting started here. Sure enough.
Looks like they're just opting to remove as much damage off the board as they can, because as we talked about before, the Mage is definitely a very burst-oriented deck here, and they want to try to hold on to as much life as they can, considering Rogue doesn't actually have that much sustain.
Yeah, so St. Clair are going to be able to do a little poke, however, nothing else after that. Of course, still very early in this matchup.
I like the play that St. Clair actually opted for right there. They could have kept the stealth minion for 1 more turn and greeted for that next turn, considering that they don't have any more stealth minions in their hand. But it seems like they already know what their next few turns are. They have stuff to play on turn 4. They have a 5-drop as well. They don't actually need the card draw right now. And look at that. They got it anyways. They have another stealth minion in their hand for whenever they want to do that combo.
Interesting. Now, who in the world is this here? The Astromancer. Obviously, it's got the +1 spell damage as well, so similar to the last card we saw University of Michigan play here. But also has a death rattle effect. What does this prime fella do?
So it's actually a really, really insane fun card. There's this card back in the day. His name's Yogg-Saron. Are you familiar?
I've heard of it, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yes. So what Yogg-Saron was, he was a 10 mana minion, okay? And he was a 7/5 stat line, but that's not the part that mattered. The part that mattered was that for every spell that you cast that game, you cast a random spell targeted with random enemy or random targets, okay?
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. What this guy does, this is budget Yogg-Saron, all right? So that's a 2 mana 3/2, right? With spell damage +1. That's already a pretty good card on its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
To top it off, what they just did, they shuffled a 7 mana 7/7, which is, fair stats. And the effect is cast 5 random mage spells, with random targets.
Right.
So it's basically budget Yogg-Saron mixed in with a early game tempo minion.
Gotcha. And speaking of the tempo kind of being set here, it looks like St. Clair, as we're figuring out with that card, it seems to got themselves some board control. We do got some freezing coming down, probably to try and slow some of the bleeding here that St. Clair is about to dish out. And stuck with that Mana Cyclone, and then that's going to be it for now.
Yeah, and that's that combo I was talking to you about earlier. The Mana Cyclone, one of my personal favorite cards in Mage as well. Every single spell that you cast that turn, you get a new spell in your hand once you play that. So they basically just recycled all of their spells that they did this turn. They stalled out the game, stalled 7 life for themselves by freezing those 2 minions, and then they got spells back anyways.
Well, and that's value if I've ever heard of it.
Yep. All for 2 mana, by the way. Yeah, 2 mana, generate a bunch of cards, and yeah, just give yourself a 2/2 while you're at it.
Interesting. Of course, those 2 heavy hitters for St. Clair are going to be frozen up, not going to be able to smack the University of Michigan in the face this time by. That could take a chance, maybe get ourselves a random spell of sorts. They're thinking about it, you can see them keep hovering it. Or just lock down the board even further. Let's see where they go from here.
Yeah, I would imagine they just want to slap down that big taunt right there. Maybe get rid of that Mana Cyclone in case University of Michigan has any way of duplicating that back to their hand, because I'm sure they don't want to deal with those. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do here.
Yep, some board control and 1 additional piece of damage. Looking like they're in fine position, but of course, one thing about mages is that sometimes their spells don't matter if you have a taunt in front of them. They can still smack in the face anyway.
Yes, Mage definitely does have a lot of reach built in their decks, for sure. Oh boy, here we go.
What do we got going on here? I see
All
a lot
right,
of
this
freeze.
spell. Yep. So whenever, every 3 spells that they cast, they get a free minion on board here. I'm not sure if it's within the same turn. I'm gonna have to double check on that really quick. Yeah. So after you cast 3 spells in a turn, they get a free 5/5.
Okay, and it looks like even that 1 spell to summon the 2 taunt minions still counts as a minion, so they just need 1 more. Do they have something worth 1 mana? I'm sure they would, otherwise they probably would have went for this combo. But they might have gone too soon here.
That's actually miserable for St. Clair, because not only do they have to deal with that 5/5 on board, they have to somehow get rid of that 2/5 that keeps generating them. And on top of that, one of the spells that they played generated them taunt minions.
Yeah, so you can't even attack it directly to start things off. You can't just get the your weaker minions and just poke away at it. They're gonna have to find a way around it. They tried to discover a spell here.
They did.
Sure
So
enough.
what they can do here,
Go ahead.
they can Seal Fate that. So they use Seal Fate on it. Well, first they're gonna see what they get here, just like order, lull, yeah, all that jazz. So I would imagine here they're just gonna drop that because they get they see what they have. They might even generate themselves some spell damage here with that 2-drop minion if they get like Blood Mage Thalnos or something. But they do have the removal for it, so they're probably gonna Seal Fate it. I'd imagine they're just gonna leave the 5/5 because they definitely want to get rid of the 2/5 ASAP. There it is. And what do you know? The thing that they just got is actually going to be enough to clear it.
Yep, sure enough, they'll be able to take care of that. So they eventually have to deal with this 5/5, but at least they don't have to worry about any more showing up. And let them breathe easy for at least a little bit here.
Oh yeah, St. Clair is looking nice and cozy right now. It's going to be interesting to see what University of Michigan does to respond, because that's one of the things in that deck that really allows it to go off, and they just threw it out the window. I mean, they did get some value out of it. They ended up getting a total of 7-10 stat line for 3 mana, which is absolutely insane. But seems like St. Clair were just sitting back, relaxed, nice and cozy.
Do you think? Oh, they're looking to possibly swing here, but that's going to basically take care of that elemental the next turn when you can just poke with it, unless they can somehow heal it. Oh, that's one way to do it.
There you go. Why heal it when you can just make 2 minions of the same value after you trade it, by the way? So that's a lot of value. That card is absolutely nuts.
This is why this game continues to boggle my mind, but that definitely makes sense and was a solid play there for University of Michigan.
I believe that is also the 4th Ray of Frost that we've seen from University of Michigan. Considering that it's a twin spell means that you can cast each one twice. So this
Okay.
should be out unless I'm mistaken if they generated one off of one of the mana cyclones, but that should be it for that card. So no more 1 mana freeze a minion. That maybe that 4/5 will finally get its first attack in after 6 turns. We'll find out.
Yeah, it's been locked up pretty much this entire game so far, but it's only a matter of time before you let it loose. That other taunt minion on the side of University of Michigan, not going to be very long for this world. Sitting there with one health left. And then what can St. Clair do here to maximize their damage?
Well, it looks like they're trying to look for something here. So I'd imagine they're playing that. Yep, okay, there it is. So they're putting the stealth minion down. They're going to draw 2 cards with the Greyheart Sage here. And that is a card, Heist Baron Togwoggle. Okay, so yep, there it is, right there. So they can't do anything with it this turn. But next turn, Dan, they're going to be playing that alongside a Lackey. And they're going to be getting some insane value.
Just say, I see it says Fantastic Minion. Now, is this going to be like some, like a standard card that you could normally put into your deck, or is this going to be some, what's it, Ysera kind of stuff going on?
So it's actually, well, it's a fantastic treasure. So you can actually
right.
get one of 4 things. So you can get Crown, Chalice, Monkey, or look at the name of the other one. I'm sure we'll see it soon, but boy. Okay, remember those mage spells I was talking about, the 5 random? They just casted one of those spells, casts 10 random mage spells. So they're getting a total of 14.
And this is random targets, correct?
Yep, so that bit them in the butt right there. Blessing of Kings here. It's more likely to benefit St. Clair. There it is. The bees come out now. Where are they going to attack? Okay, so that's a little bit of value for University of Michigan here, but we got a lot more spells to go, Dad. Totemic Reflection, all right. It's about a 50-50 shot here. Also benefiting St. Clair. Mark of Nature coming down. Who's it going to hit? Hits the wall. Misses again. Pyroblast! Is it going to hit the face?
Okay, that's actually huge.
Okay. That's one good thing gone right so far for University of Michigan here. Plus a whole Christmas tree of secrets here. Ray of Frost coming down as well. Gonna end up targeting that minion. Another one. So it looks like they ended up generating one from the Mana Cyclone from earlier, but holy, that is a lot of spells.
Considering everything that just went on there, that was not terrible for St. Clair in the slightest. I know my heart dropped when I saw the Pyroblast come onto the screen. But that, like you said, with all of these, this Christmas tree, all these secrets here, that's going to stall us out at least a little bit now for St. Clair.
The funny part about a lot of secrets is that when you have a lot of secrets, they're not really a secret because you kind of know what to expect, judging by the fact that they have a lot of them.
Right.
So you just have to know how to play around each one optimally.
Definitely makes sense here. Heist Baron's still in hand, hanging on to that for the time being. Okay, fair enough. Get some additional draw, but uh-oh. Drew so many cards, they ended up throwing it away.
Yeah, so there it is. The wand. That's the really good one for Rogue. Of course, I forgot the most important one. So what that's going to do for them, for 3 mana, they draw 3 cards, which is already insane. 3 mana, draw 3 is absolutely nuts. That's about 5 mana worth of value. On top of that, every card that they draw is free.
Lovely. So, draw into a big guy, and you just get to throw it out without consequence.
All right, so there's the Spellbender coming out here. So that's actually gonna kind of bite St. Clair in the butt here a little bit as they end up generating a minion for University of Michigan and buffing it instead of their own here. And now that this means that they also have to trade suboptimally here as well. So they're gonna end up clearing it fairly well here, but something that you gotta take notice here, they're at 15 life. They gotta be really careful.
That is for sure, of course, being able to just completely ignore what is on the board and just start casting spells at your face. Especially once it starts getting into Pyroblast territory, like just instantly lose from 10 or something like that. Could be scary.
Looking at the deck list, it doesn't look like University of Michigan is running Pyroblast specifically, but we've already seen them generate it once, right? There's no saying that they could generate it again, especially with all of these Discover cards that University of Michigan is running here. And oh boy, here we go.
Low-key finding the Dark Magician over there in the far right corner. Saw the purple rope and I had to laugh. But what on earth is happening here? This has completely flip-flopped for University of Michigan now. They're all in control of this board.
Yeah, so they ended up playing another one of those things, and it generated them a lot more spells, as you can see here. But one of the spells that it casted was a duplicate secret, which was Flame Ward. So now St. Clair knows for sure that one of those two secrets up there is Flame Ward. So now they know that they have to play around it because they literally revealed it themselves.
Right.
Because instead of casting the same secret twice, it ended up just revealing what it was and nulling itself. So looking here for their next turn here, I think if they don't draw Galakron, they're going to have to play Wand and hope that they get in. Oh boy, Dan. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. What's happening?
It's Wand time.
Okay.
Here we go. 3 cards. They got to hit Galakron here. Backstab's already free. Flick is good.
Galakron.
And oh my goodness! They hit the Galakron. Do me a favor. Hover that Galakron.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Galakron got nerfed. It used to cost, like all of the cards that it drew, used to cost 0. Now they cost 1, which is still insane, but the amount of combo potential, that this is going to be a big Edwin. Like, I'm expecting like 2020. Are you ready? It's going to be absolutely absurd.
I'm ready for it, and I'm ready for this mage to somehow have a way to copy it himself.
So they're trying to get as much value here. Their hand would be overdrawn if they end up playing Galakron now, so they're playing down the... oh, they gotta go quick, though. Oh, boy, that's a rope. They gotta go quick. Galakron time. Yep, you gotta start the animations now. And Kronx is gonna clear the board as well, which is why I was saying they need to get that Galakron. And... okay, let's see what happens here. It seems like that they got in all of their animations that they wanted to before the rope ended, but there's the AoE. Yep, they just want to get rid of it. They don't want any part of it. Did they get the Edwin down? I don't think they did because they played the Kronx.
Okay, just some armor coming out. Nothing too crazy here.
But now they also know that it's Flame Ward as well.
Right.
So they know the last secret, and that is a monster of a hand right there for St. Clair.
Okay, Mana Giant, of course.
Free 8/8.
Okay.
Oh boy. Wait, is that just a straight up 12/12 or is there any effects to it here?
Cannot attack heroes.
Can't attack heroes. Okay, so that's good for St. Clair. That's good. But they still have to find a way to deal with this board, and it looks like they're going to be able to because they have Flick and Eviscerate in their hand.
Okay.
We saw it go down for free last turn when they generated. That was an absolutely disgusting wand from St. Clair. Hit the two of the two best cards that they could have possibly wanted that was left in their deck,
And then like the worst.
and backstab. Like what? Just a little backstab for free as well. Why not? That was absolutely absurd. That is literally best case scenario here. But oh boy, Potion of Illusion here. They just got copies of all those minions then.
That is going to be rough here. That is some heavy taunts to have to deal with. You're in friendly minion, not opponent, so you can't try that one. Oh, that's a good call.
It's going to destroy that 9/9 and the 4/4 as well, because it's technically a copy of that minion.
Fair enough. Okay, never mind. That's not going to be a very difficult taunt wall to deal with.
So they might actually opt to ignore the 12/12 here. They could Shadow Step Flick again and play it again if they wanted to, but I feel like at this point in the game, they have, not to mention they have the weapon as well, and the Eviscerates. They have 9 burst damage from their hand right now. So what they might opt to do here is play that Lackey that they're hovering right now, generate a spell, try to find more reach here. Fortunately, they don't quite get it, but that Potion of Illusion is absolutely nuts.
Yep.
Because now they get to do it again.
Yep, the exact same combo available if they really feel like it, and they can get rid of that 12/12.
There you go. And they Shadow Step it again. And they get to play it again. Oh, by the way, that also gets rid of the copy in their hand.
Oh, so even better.
Anywhere. So on the board, in their hand, in their deck, wherever it is, gone. Including their own deck if they were running it as well, by the way.
Okay, that's interesting. So, now, getting in the crunch time here for University of Michigan. It's going to be scary if they can try and ward off some of this damage. Let's see what they got. Split damage coming out from Firebrand.
So they're gonna get a mage spell here. Probably look for some kind of removal, some kind of burst here, because keep in mind they still have a lot of damage and a lot of burst potential. And St. Clair College is not healthy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, sitting at 18, but I could be turned around in an instant. Absolutely.
And there's the arcane missiles as well. So when that dies, it's going to give them arcane missiles, and that's a free 3 burst plus whatever spell damage plus whatever other combo potential you want as well. So that's a good card, and that's also one of University of Michigan's powerhouses as well. They're also running. That's a mage and a rogue card, and both decks are running it.
Okay. Okay, spell, what does it give us? Minion damage.
Backstab and Vendetta are both good here. These are all good here. They're all good removal. St. Clair has to find a way to deal with that 6/6 though. If they don't get rid of it, they're going to be in big trouble here. And they might opt for just the backstab and to eviscerate it, and then play a bunch of other stuff and try to get a big Edwin going, because at this point you got to try to get it down eventually. And I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to see as much value as they can here. They get the Kobold Lackey. That gives them some of the burst here that they might end up burning. I think they want to get rid of that 6/6 though. I think you opts to flick it, but it looks like they're going to try to go for big Edwin play and use some of their reach that they have on the face to get rid of it and make a big minion on the board instead here. I'm not quite sure how many cards they play this turn. I'm just going to guess randomly here and go with a 14-14 Edwin. I have no idea.
No, 12-12, close enough.
Well played.
That being said, of course, still got this guy ready to spit some damage, go into the face. Do they have the answer in their hand?
Fireball will do it.
I'll do it.
There's the fireball. Yep, discovered, of course. And that's exactly what that deck does. Discover a lot of spells. Just keep playing spells.
Definitely makes sense. A solid game there from U of Michigan. It felt like they were on the back foot for the majority of that game. But, of course, between being able to control the board slowly but surely, they discovered spells they needed to, and were eventually able to flip that around before that Edwin could take any damage off them. So
yeah, unfortunately, that Edwin coming down a little bit later than St. Clair would have liked to, but I honestly think they played that match pretty well. That being said, even though they ended up coming out short, they had a lot of really good swings in their favor, specifically that one turn generating them flick for free as well as Galakron, which is absolutely insane. But that's exactly what that mage deck does. It just pokes you down a little bit in the early game, gets you barely in reach so that they can have that big swoosh turn. And that's exactly what happened. But luckily for St. Clair, they don't have to play against that again.
yeah, so it's off the table, and of course, you opt to see, or do they get to pick? Remind me again of how the ruling goes. Does the winner have to pick deck first, then you get to answer it, or you have to go at the same time?
It's both blind.
Both blind. Okay, so they're gonna have St. Clair are gonna have to try and see what University of Michigan are bringing up next between, I believe it was a rogue of their own and a paladin. Actually, oddly enough, both teams running the exact same classes here today. So might see some repeats, but we'll see what happens momentarily. Go take this very quick break. Within 2-3 minutes, we'll be back in action. Stay tuned.